We have three coaching hires in the I'm skeptical bucket, starting with, and we'll kind of go through these a little quicker and basically say why we're skeptical this might not work out. For the Chiefs, hiring Eric Bieniemy back as the offensive coordinator, I've been pretty transparent about this, that I think it's time for some new ideas in that Chiefs building,
Yep.
and it appears that the people who disagree with me the most are in the Chiefs building, and this is the move that signals that quite clearly, because they're just getting the guy who was the offensive coordinator back when we were just successful not too long ago. We're going to soft fire Matt Nagy. We're going to launder that through the media, and we're going to bring back Eric Bieniemy, which is what they do here. Maybe Bieniemy, and I actually think there's a, like, for personality reasons, like holding guys accountable, being more of like the bad cop to Andy Reid's good cop, I think that might actually work out pretty well for Kansas City. I just don't think Bieniemy comes in and solves any of their schematic issues from a run game. So he might be better in the run game, and maybe he picks some things up under Ben Johnson last year in Chicago. I at least think that's at least something we should do some lip service to here, that he was the Bears running back coach last year, and he's a really good running back coach. Maybe he makes the run game better, but from a pass game standpoint, I thought what he brought to the table in Washington was terrible. And I think that the passing game design in Kansas City is in need of a refresh and a personnel refresh, excuse me. And like, we're going to have to do the personnel, because schematically it's going to stay the same.
It is. And like the Ben Johnson, Sean Payton tree, like there's not a ton of carryover to like what Andy Reid and like this. No. And this is what I mean by this, the Andy Reid offense again. And I feel like, because we just did another show together, so I'm going to repeat myself here. Andy Reid is a true West Coast guy. Like, he is the last one. Doug Peterson was probably the other guy. That's what it looked like, guys. If you ever want to know what a West Coast offense looked like in the late 90s, early aughts, which is funny because we're entering that circle right now where that tree, we have our version of that, the millennial version now with the Shanahan tree. We had the whole Mike Shanahan tree, and the Packers guys, the Mike Holmgren tree getting plucked, Steve Mariucci, all these guys getting plucked off, gets really barren, and then you get some really bad coordinators coming off of it. We're kind of going through that again right now. So now the same thing happened then, where teams started going off of different trees, and that's the Sean Payton tree, the Ben Johnson tree now, I guess, Dan Campbell, whatever you want to say, is that, but it's just like, it's not so much that Bieniemy might come in and have some ideas. And I know Andy Reid, at least in the past, was very open. They said, oh, we would have a whiteboard out there and everyone's coming up with new ideas for the week. And we try and like one up each other, but it's like, that's also when they were hungry, meaning they haven't won a Super Bowl. That was hungry with a young staff, hungry. Now they're more just like patching up holes. And so if you're Andy Reid in 2026, 70 years old, I think he's older than my dad now. So that old, everything you've done has worked. And now you're hiring a whole bunch of assistants that have only worked under you and are probably happy to come back for that job. So they don't want to rock boat too much. You get into these meetings, you might have all these ideas. You might work out week one. You get the Andy Reid blowout. Oh, here's the new ideas, which used to be a little bit more common. That doesn't happen these days. All right, week two. What happens when they lose 2 games in a row? What do you think is going to happen when a coach is stressed and he's going to run exactly what he runs? And that's what's scary, because it's not going to be, they've worked together enough. And yeah, he can be good cop, backup, all that stuff. Yes, he might sprinkle in new ideas. I just think when push comes to shove, and this roster is not as complete as we're hoping it would be. That's the real issue of everything, is how many roster misses they've had. But I would, again, as a betting guy, I would bet more that it's Andy Reid returns to what he's comfortable with, as opposed to going like, I need new ideas. And hey, Eric, you got it, buddy. Like, you're going to handle most of this. I'm going to just sprinkle in and let you take the reins. He's still calling plays. Andy is still calling plays. So how much is going to change? Get into the play call stuff. So I'm a little pessimistic about it. I do think for a retread for the Chiefs, like, yeah, Bieniemy was amazing as a running back coach last year. We talked about it all year. DeAndre Swift had the best season of his career, but it's just a little uninspiring. This feels like a franchise that needs a big whole, like, heaping amount of mouthwash. Like, it just needs like to just reset a lot of stuff, but it's very hard for them to do that when these guys are all kind of still there.
Yeah, they needed to go to the dentist and they popped an Altoid. Like, not good enough. Like, I'm again, Stack rankings, they were 30th Kansas City last year. What they do is because it's they were 30th in under center rate, 27th in drop back with motion, 29th in run plays with motion. They're just, it's a lot of the spread. Remember when he got to Kansas City, it's like a spread but with college with the West Coast influence, like spread coast. That's what we're doing here. And they're still kind of just doing that. And the league is just, we've bypassed it at this point. And if you're going to run out the goofy receiver core of Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy and, insert sacrificial, can't get open X receiver here, like that, you're going to run into the results that we saw last year, which, I mean, I wrote a column in the middle of November, way before Mahomes was injured, just like, hey, what's wrong with the Chiefs offense as they've lost a game on either side of the bye? And remember when Andy Reid could never lose coming out of a bye week? It's just like that's those like lack of new ideas. That's where we're at. And that's why I just really can't get behind this hire as anything more than I'm just skeptical of it.
And honestly, it's if you want to look like the arc of Andy Reid, who was such an innovator with some stuff, or at least popularized some stuff, and was willing to look to lower ranks, like Brad Childress, who you see right here on the coaching tree. Brad Childress was hired by the Chiefs to be the spread game analyst, was his title. Yeah. And he literally just watched college film to steal ideas. And one of those ideas that everyone popularized, which was funny, was when Carson Wentz came out from North Dakota State. There's a couple like switch concepts that that's what I would just call them, just switch verts and all this stuff. You still see a couple teams run them. Then it was like they just got away from that, like a play, that concept that worked for them a ton, and they just like went away from it for some reason. It was like, do you need someone to just keep yelling at you to use new ideas? When Andy Reid was calling plays with the Eagles were the highest run pass, or had the highest pass splits as far as run pass ratio. And they were the highest gun team. It was like them and the Colts. And now it's probably the same, and they feel so static, like you say, and so behind the times. And that's what's very funny about the circles of the NFL. It's like Mike D'Antoni and the NBA and basketball, the 7 seconds or less Suns. Now everyone does it. All right, what else you got? Like, that's what we're getting to. It's like, all right, what else you got? Okay. Everyone's caught up to that. It was good. Don't get me wrong. Great, even. What's the next step? And that's what kind of has just left me kind of like feeling a little dry. Maybe he lets it go under center. Maybe there is more play action, because I do think the run game could be really good, especially if they add juice to that running back room, because the O-line is going to be really good next year. But need trust, and you need Andy to kind of let the reins go a little bit, but we'll see.
Okay, I'm going to go out of the order on the dock here for the last two. One, because I want to save the best for last. And two, I want to talk Steelers hiring Mike McCarthy here as the head coach, because you mentioned like, one of the last true West Coast guy. I'd argue that Mike McCarthy is the other one. He just obviously was in the NFL last year. Again, very similar to what I said with Kansas City, where it was, it's the spread coast. Mike McCarthy did that, where he tried to rebrand the West Coast when he took over. Or he was like, we're going to install the West Coast offense after we fired Kellen. We let Kellen Moore go out the door, and they call it the Coast. Texas Coast. The Texas Coast Gulf Coast. Like, you're just running the West Coast offense. Just, you don't need to rebrand it, dress it up. Just say what you're doing. You're running the West Coast offense. Yeah, Dak's talking about how the route depth is tied to his drops, all that stuff. Yeah, that's called the freaking West Coast offense. You don't need to put your state's name in it. It's fine. You're running the West Coast offense. Probably what Mike McCarthy is going to do here in Pittsburgh as well. Yes. I don't think Mike McCarthy is some bumbling buffoon, or like this is he's an offensive mind by any means. It's just it's a little stale. And the two big hangups I have about it, Nate, is one, if this is in any way meant to entice Aaron Rodgers back, that's going to be a no for me, dog. And the other one is, like I said, I don't think Mike McCarthy's some offensive buffoon or anything, but it's just hard to ignore the fact that he leaves Green Bay, they instantly get better on offense when Matt LaFleur comes in there. He leaves Dallas, they instantly get better when Brian Schottenheimer takes over head coach play calling duties. That's a little tough to ignore on Mike McCarthy's resume. So, like I said, maybe I'm skeptical of like what the ceiling is on this operation here in Pittsburgh, especially because we were talking about this on 301. Their personnel does not fit like a West Coast offense by any means.
Nope. It actually fits a Sean Payton tree offense pretty well. It should be a vertical, and he likes to attack horizontally. That's the West Coast way of thinking is quick passes replaces the run game, makes the defense run side to side, and then we attack vertically with the run game as the game goes along. Like that's the classic philosophy that they want to use. But the thing was, all right, now that scheme's kind of outdated. And as we saw in Green Bay, especially how Green Bay ran it, because Rodgers was in control of everything and McCarthy was just cool with doing that. If anyone, again, man, I feel like I've told a lot of stories today. I don't think I've ever been on record for. Maybe it's just this time of the year. Maybe is that I guess I not met with them, but like I was hanging out with a Packers coach at the time, and he was talking about how much Aaron Rodgers would change the play call that the coaching staff didn't know what he even ran. Like they didn't know how to chart it because he ad-libbed the play call so much. So they would be like, call play, two jet, they call the play, and then Rodgers started signaling, do the stuff, and then they'd all just be looking at each other, going, "What did he signal? What was that?" Like, so is that his offense or not? McCarthy, and then he gets with Dak, and that Texas Coast offense was West Coast, but then there was some Dak stuff, and Dak prefers, and Schottenheimer's leaning this too as well. He is a good West Coast quarterback, but he prefers some of what his first play caller, Scott Linehan, used as well. So that Dallas offense is kind of hybrid, even under McCarthy, just a little bit. But again, that speaks to Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott, and we've talked about this as well. So he had two cerebral vets as his quarterbacks for the last 20 years. How much do you think he's learned to like groom a young guy or a guy that needs help and needs training wheels? I don't know if he's got that in his bag. The last time we saw it was rookie year. Alex Smith was one of the worst offenses we've ever seen. I totally forgot about the Marty Schottenheimer connection as well. But remember, I talked about all those West Coast guys from Green Bay. He was one of those guys. He's supposed to be a great guy and all that stuff. But again, it's just it's uninspiring to me because it's just like, especially if the reason to do this is to bring back Rodgers. And we talked about this, but like Rodgers was nothing. Rodgers, how he should have played, if you watch 2-minute drills with the Steelers, that's how he should have been playing the entire game. But he doesn't want to do that at his age. Like he doesn't want to play that way anymore. That's an issue. That's not why I signed you, Aaron Rodgers. It's to do that for 60 minutes, not for the final 2 minutes of each half. When you can let loose. So, and I just talked about him signaling plays. Do you think McCarthy's going to push him now to change his ways? So I don't know. It just feels like a very lazy in a way hiring. And I'm not inspired by Mike McCarthy. And if you look at the staff he's hiring, it's a lot of his buddies. So I'm not looking at guys to like, oh yeah, they're going to bring in some cool ideas or anything. So yeah, it's a big shrug for me.
Yeah, right. Like you mentioned this earlier today, even the idea of like, oh, Scott Tolzien, like that could be potentially interesting. Something there that might be fascinating. They go with Brian Angelico, Angelico from
McCarthy, what an Italian hires.
Kind of older guy. Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I guess. I think the
I didn't mean to make like a statement about that. I just noticed there's a lot of Italian names guys get hired. It wasn't some grandiose statement.
Not a lot of representation otherwise. So I guess we got the Italian.
There we go.
Here. There's that. Yeah,
very true.
Yeah, all these coaching hires still that's still an issue. So yeah, I think when we're looking at the Steelers offense, we'll see what it looks like. Not inspired. We talked about Kyler Murray potentially as a solution for them if Rodgers hasn't come back. Hey, if he's cool with ad-libbing and freewheeling Mike McCarthy, he'll love him some Kyler Murray. So there is there is that. Okay, last one here. Like I said, save the best for last. The Jets hired Frank Reich to be the offensive coordinator. I mean, okay, this is beyond like I'm skeptical. This is like WTF. I don't know, like, what are we doing here with Frank Reich? Number one, don't understand what the Jets are doing at all, unless you're going to say, hey, skip to the end, they're tanking for 2026, log out, fine. Okay, I get that. But I liked some of what Tanner Engstrand brought to the table. I thought he, from a design standpoint, the pass game pretty solid. I think the design standpoint, the run game pretty solid. But some of the play calling, sequencing, I think that left a lot to be desired. Mm-hmm. But even if you agree or you disagree completely with everything I just said, the answer is Frank Reich and like Bill Musgrave as a quarterback coach and like this boomer staff that they're putting together. Like for what and for who? Last time we saw Frank Reich was in 2023 running a stale ass offense for the Carolina Panthers en route to the number 1 overall pick and being fired mid-season. Like the league has just summarily moved on from this brand of offense. It just. And frankly, I don't think a 4-8 stint as the interim head coach for Stanford last year did much to push him on the innovation path here. So I can't sell this as an upgrade or a needle mover for anybody with the New York Jets this year. Too harsh or just right, Nate Tice?
No, because I think they're looking at they can't wait for 1 year from now. I think this whole Jets franchise. Like I think in a year from now, they're just trying to they're trying to sim to end, sim this season to end. Because I think they have 3 first-round picks next year in 2027. They have 2 this year, but they have 3 in 2027. The quarterback class is much better for 2027. And I think leading to quarterback answers leads you to everything else where they're just like, I don't really like what we got here. Kick the can. All right. Who needs a retirement package? All right, Frank, you've had a career. You need some more years on that when you retire now, just to help out that retirement money. But no, I just even look at it like that's just. I mean, seriously, I was trying to think of the term. Like, what is it when you're? Your pension. Thank you. Sorry,
your pension. Yeah.
Yes, that was the retirement money.
Follow us for financial advice.
Me speak English. Yeah. Wu-Tang Financials. You got to diversify your bonds. No, I do look at him as just like, it's a shrug. Like that's what this whole Jets team feels like. We talked about even just the quarterback answers. Like, it's like, do you really want to go with Kyler? And with is that an option for you guys? Cause you guys also want to kind of, they don't want to like even be frisky. They want to clearly stink this year. Like, because you have to find an option at quarterback. And so is it Jacoby Brissett at quarterback? All right, they got a Frank Reich connection there, but it's like that's what we're talking about. Where Jacoby Brissett's your best answer at the quarterback position. So we keep talking about who are the most important people on a team: offensive play caller, quarterback, and for them it just feels like shrug, and that's why it's just kind of like even breaking this down. Like the offense will be like whatever. He clearly did not like Bryce Young. I don't think he wanted to draft him, but also it felt like a sabotage job. That was rough. The end with the Colts with Matt Ryan. He also had the offensive line coach that I just ragged on about the Texans. That was his offensive line coach in Indy, which again is an issue. Like, why were you letting that happen? Like he just kind of felt lazy for a few years, and that's what everything about this feels pretty lazy.
Yeah, I mean, even there's been some ideas, and I talked about this with you earlier today about Derek Carr, who, by the way, says he's only going to come out of retirement for a Super Bowl contender. Derek, please,
Derek.
Come on, dog. But
maybe you should go to Minnesota.
Yeah, I guess. But okay, the opposite of a Super Bowl contender is
that was a continuing joke from Football 301. Sorry, only me and Matt think that's funny because I was continuing a joke we talked about earlier.
Truly,
so make sure you check that out.
Only us.
The 2-part joke.
Definitely. If you haven't got enough of us here on this hour 40 banger, definitely make sure you check us out on our other outing.
I told you it's gonna be a 4 hours today.
From today. God, it's better than having a real job. But anyways, Derek Carr, it's like, bring him back because Frank Reich kind of flirted with him with the Panthers. He met with him at the combine. I think that was probably the path he really wanted to go down was Derek Carr or then draft CJ Stroud. They ended up with Bryce Young because of the owner in Carolina, whatever. But also like, Bill Musgrave. He was Derek Carr's offensive coordinator. He's the quarterback coach here now on this boomer staff. Number one, there could not be a bigger shrug answer than bring Derek Carr out of retirement, trade for him from the Saints. But then my other thought is like, damn, I think that shrug might be too good for what the Jets want to be.
Right.
I think it's too good.
I've talked myself out of Kyler with them just for the same reasoning. I was like, I don't think they actually want this.
Yeah, I have no idea what the hell this team wants to be, but I can't imagine it's going to be very good with Frank Reich, who, unfortunately, I definitely foresee the graphic of him. He gets the interim head coaching job after they fire Aaron Glenn in week 10 or something like that.
Yeah. Feels like a post. We don't have their schedule yet because the NFL wants to release that in May, but definitely feels like a bye week. Let's find the bye week And then we can put the over under at for that there. Like even last year. So like last year, he was the interim head coach with Stanford because Stanford was a mess, and Andrew Luck takes over as like the head of football or GM, whatever these titles are now. Frank Reich got hired as the interim head coach at Stanford. This is a ACC school, which is pains me to say, but it's an ACC school, a Power 4 school. They hired him on March 31st last year to be their head coach. Frank Reich was just kicking around, hanging out until March 31st. And then they're like, hey, you want to be the head coach at Stanford for a few months? Okay, sure. And then they moved on from him November 28th. And he was like a senior advisor until now, February 4th, he gets hired as the OC for the Jets. It's just a lot of shrugging.
It's like
a lot of shrugging going on.
Who's available? Frank is available. Frank probably picking up the phone like, the meme like that.
Yeah,
that's what he is.
And they probably went down the road. They went down the phone book and they got to R. So that means that's how many they had to call. This is me scrolling the phone.
Yeah. Well, I guess Gruden turned him down. Gruden turned him. So, they wanted him to be on the staff. Gruden's too busy making shouting videos in San Francisco. I mean, with Rich Gannon.
Oh my God. Man on the street videos.
Which frankly sounds like a way better gig than the Jets offensive coordinator in 2026. So I don't blame Gruden.
I agree. I agree. I bet my dad has a playoff win more recently than John Gruden. That's one of my favorite stats I learned this past month.
Call up Mike Tice. Get him on the staff.
Get him on. He loves New York. He'll do it for a year. Might ruin his pension. Speaking of pensions, he's a boomer. That's
perfect. That's a good point. He
might be the
right
young
in.
guy on the staff. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you're right.
Frank
a little
Reich
too young and fresh. Yeah.
Frank Reich and him go back to Maryland. Actually, Reich was, my dad was quarterback Maryland, then went Boomer, I think Boomer Esiason, then Frank Reich. There's kind of like a little connection there. Terp QBs.
All right. On that note,
we've gone too long. We've legitimately, for anyone listening, we've podcasted for almost 4 hours straight today. So on a Tuesday.
Yeah, and you could tell that we're sending Mike Tice to the 2026 Jets coaching staff and revisiting his. Let him know what does he think. What does he think about spread concepts in the year 2020?
Hey, the Jets O-line's pretty sweet. Harmon and Boo, he might actually like this. It might not be the worst gig for him.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm sure he's not busy enough being a grandpa and hanging out and actually having a good time. Definitely get him in the mix there with the 2026 New York Jets.